With all of this added up, it brings our total spending for the entire month of July to be Last month, we made a video going over all of our expenses for the entire month of June, and everyone seemed to really like how insightful it was to RV living. So we decided to do the same thing for the entire month of July. In today's video, we're going over the same topics, which is camping, groceries, gas, maintenance, fun things, and other miscellaneous expenses. If you thought the month of June seemed a little expensive for RV living, we would agree with you and can confidently say that July was much more affordable and reasonable price for RV living. The first category that we're going to be going over today is also the same as it was last month, and that's going to be campsites. This includes campgrounds, harvest hosts, and other ways you can stay the night somewhere. The total amount we spent on campsites for the whole month of June was $1,496. It should be noted that this is about $700 more than it was last month. However, we were staying in a little more popular places in July than we were in June. As an example, we spent a full 2 weeks in Grand Teton National Park, which was really amazing and awesome. We would definitely recommend it. We have multiple videos that we would recommend you watching if you're interested in it. But these 2 weeks alone for just camping cost over $800, which is definitely the most expensive place we have stayed at so far. We also spent about a week and a half in Yellowstone, which is also a really popular area for RVing, so the campgrounds tended to be a little more expensive, and for about a week there we were spending on average over $250, which is also more expensive than the average cost it was for living last month. To give a split for our stays with hookups and non-hookups, we spent 13 days having some form of hookups. Sometimes it was full hookups, sometimes just electricity. We spent one night at Harvest Host, which is a big decrease compared to last month, which is actually a good thing for the finances because we learned that this actually ended up costing us about $50 a night instead of what Harvest Host says is only going to cost you $30 for supporting their local businesses. Like the golf, it can cost $45 a round, which is obviously more than $30. And then we spent the remaining 17 days in July having no hookups, which actually ended up being our most expensive, but they were in the Grand Teton, so kind of makes sense. The next category is going to be groceries, and unlike campsites, this ended up being less than half of what it cost in the month of June, with the grand total of $491 for the entire month. Now, there is a slight caveat to this. We did have parents visiting, which was amazing. But if your parents are anything like ours, they insisted to pay for all of our meals, which we graciously took them up on. However, this really was only happening for about a week and a half, so the ratio of how much we were spending, if you were going to run it out to the end of the month, still would have been less in July than it would have been in June. We believe this is mainly due to the part that in June, we bought all of our groceries, everything that you need that you only buy every couple of months, like condiments and protein powders and things like that. We just didn't need to buy these in July, which ended up saving us probably $100 to $200. The next category that we're going to be going over today is going to be fuel and gas for the RV in our car, which are also way down in July compared to June, and this is mainly due to the fact that we didn't drive the RV nearly as much in July as we did in June, which is a big deal for our finances because the RV costs anywhere from $150 to $225 to fill up, which we only had to do like maybe twice for the whole month of July. We did end up spending a lot more money filling up the car because we were staying in one spot for longer, so we were driving around more often, but this gets way better gas mileage than the RV, so we were totally okay doing this. The total amount we spent on gas for RV and car for the entire month of July was only $393, which is extremely low, and we're very happy with that. However, we're both very aware that this is probably not going to be an every month expense, probably going to be closer to $700 to $1,000, just because we're going to be driving the RV more in future months than we did in July. The next category is going to be one that in June didn't really have any expenses here, but in July had a little more, and that is going to be RV maintenance. In the month of June, they didn't really have anything that happened. I think we had to replace the RV awning straps. And in July, we had a blown tire on our tow dolly, so needed to buy the equipment and replace the tire, which was about $200 in itself. And we also had to get an oil change for our car and replace our microwave because that broke, of course. Made a whole video on how to do that. If you're interested, I'll link it here, which brought our total to $259 for RV maintenance for the month of July. This price isn't really too bad for RV maintenance in 1 month. We are aware that this can spike and one thing can just cost thousands of dollars. Luckily, we haven't hit anything like that yet, knock on wood, but paying about $200 a month for RV maintenance is something we can kind of stomach. That is kind of just reasonable and just what you have to deal with this lifestyle. The next category is going to be one that was one of our most expensive for the month of June, but is much lower for the month of July yet again, and that is going to be fun things. We do need to admit that we probably have an issue with buying ice cream because it is like $15 to $20 when you go get 2 dishes of ice cream somewhere. You can buy like a gallon of it for like $5 to $10, but we really enjoy going out and getting ice cream and kind of walking around. It's just a fun thing to do. But even with buying ice cream a couple of times and getting drinks at some places, we were able to keep our fun things budget to only $177 for the entire month of July. Personally, I'm super happy with that. June was definitely a little expensive for fun things, so it's nice to see that in July we were able to kind of rein ourselves in and have a little more self-control, and hopefully we can continue that forward in future months. The next category that we're going to be going over is a part of fun things, and that is going to be eating out. Similar to fun things that we just talked about, we didn't eat out nearly as much in July as we did in June, but in June we were celebrating our anniversary, so kind of have to eat out for that. But in July, we only spent $119 on eating out for the entire month. Again, super happy with this. Would be very excited if we continue the spending habits for eating out and fun things in future months. The next category is going to be monthly subscriptions that we have. This is not going to be really a changing cost that we have every single month, but I think it is important to bring this up every single month just so it makes sense with our final amount spent each month. Definitely talked about this more in last month's video, which I'll link here, but the total amount we spent on subscriptions for the entire month of July is $467. And like I said in last week's video, this is mainly due to Starlink, which is about $150 a month, and our storage unit, which is $140 a month. These monthly subscriptions, we don't really have anything that's like not needed, like streaming services or anything like that. We have family plans that we share with the rest of our family, which cuts down on the cost. And other than that, it's just things like phone plan and insurance and RV insurance that you just have to pay for. I would like to see it if we could somehow manage to get this down, but I don't really see that happening in the foreseeable future as long as we're living in an RV. Next category is going to be miscellaneous expenses that we have throughout the month. For June, this was probably the most surprising amount that we spent for this category. In July, much more reasonable, which makes sense because in June we were buying like miscellaneous tools and parts that we needed for the RV, and in July kind of had most of that figured out, so we didn't have as many Amazon orders, which is great for our bank account. However, we did need to fix our camera. One of the SD cards kind of got jammed and messed up, so we took it into a camera shop. They were able to get it fixed, but we had to buy the SD card that they put it on, and there was kind of a mix-up, so we ended up getting 2 on accident. And then more of a just reasonable thing that you just have in your everyday, had to get eye contacts, which lasts many months, so that's definitely not going to be a monthly expense we have. Which brings our total for miscellaneous spending to $357 for the whole month of July. Honestly, compared to the month of June, which was like over $1,400 on miscellaneous spending, I'm pretty excited with this. If we could bring it down even more, which I think we could, I'm pretty sure we could get this to about $200 a month, which would be great, and I think we can definitely do that for future months. With all of this added up, it brings our total spending for the entire month of July to be $3,763.24. This was almost $2,000 less than it was compared to June, which I am super happy about, and I'm sure our bank account is also super happy about. I believe that we can continue this trend of spending less and less money, and you know what? Maybe one day we'll be able to RV completely for $0, which probably not going to happen, but would be pretty awesome. It's really interesting looking at these expense reports, in my opinion, because you get to see where you spend most of your money, where you think you can cut back, and just plan for future expenses. Like now we know that if we stay somewhere a little more popular, campgrounds are just going to cost $60 to $70 a night, which does seem a little high, but you get the really cool area with it, so it's kind of a trade-off because you spend more time hiking and exploring the area than you would if you were to pay for activities in areas that don't have as much natural beauty. I think we can still get this down a couple $100, maybe get it to $3,000 a month. That's kind of my goal of what I want our spending to be, and maybe in August we'll hit it, and if not, maybe September or October. So make sure to keep watching as we'll come out with these every month because they seem to be pretty popular, and we'll see you then.